I could tell you horror stories, but I will not darken your actual real life. Instead, let's explore the traumas of dealing with the family, the chosen family that is this particular coterie. Do we have any questions, suggestions, or hypotheses as to where we are and if there are any corners that we need to round off?
How bad have we fucked up so far?
Immeasurably. But that is always the case. You want to be outside of the expected, because if you do what the expected is, and they expect what you can do, and therefore, well, it's always a bad thing to do exactly what the bad guys expect you to operate within their metrics of your behavior.
I was going to say, don't the higher ups expect us just to fuck up?
It
seems like expected.
There is a certain amount of hoping for the worst and planning for the best that your antagonists do. Like, what's the worst thing that they could do that will help me? Let's see if we can get them to do exactly that and nothing more.
I do have to ask, in the event that we do fuck up and we're basically hunted down, is becoming a bunch of anarchs an option?
There is always that option. There is always... I thought you guys already were anarchs.
I mean, if you want to get technical, Mary's not even technically in the camp.
Neither am I.
Yes, well, you have a better reason.
What was the term that the one character used? Officially, or like unofficially, officially in the Camarilla, but basically independent, or whatever it was. Or basically it's, you're in the cam, but you ignore everyone else so they don't mess with you, if that's what I remember.
Yeah, good old Martin and his broken nose attitude toward the remainder of the city. Because at his base, while he is officially a member of the tower, Avalon, for all intents and purposes, as far as a neighborhood, it operates similarly to a baron. He keeps most other kindred out with a polite and kind warning. He does what he can to make sure that the kind in the neighborhood are well fed and operate in the semblance of safety, so that when he does what he needs to do, which is divest them of their life in various states, he is taken as a dark avenger instead of a creature of the night. And so he's in the Camarilla, but for all intents and purposes, he acts and operates like an anarch. Barring the official declaration of screw the tower, is there any other question?
Not for me.
Very, very cool. So we are a little bit past our normal hard starting to have a slow, very stumbling step into this tonight. But just for the record, so that you guys are 100% aware, because I want you to understand that I take great pleasure and joy in the times that we've shared. It means a world to me that we have this opportunity. This is our weekly weekend without being the weekend. It's our hump day, stairway to heaven and all that, at least for me. And your efforts are greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. And if there are no further questions, suggestions, hypotheses, or corners we need to round off, I'd like to say that this is officially Soup City Sins, Season 13, Episode 6, Grapes to Wine or Race in. Most of the titles have been somewhat indicative of some of the themes that we were hoping to explore. And when we last left our coterie, there was the opportunity sitting before them to wrap all of their immediate superficial problems up in a nice, neat bow by presenting the desiccating corpse of Lucio's childer, of Dizzy's ghoul, of the bane that has driven them forth into this particular situation due to the devastation of their former coterie member, Vivi. After no small bit of adrenaline, a foot chase, and a small bit of combat, the coterie has both Vivi and Dizzy's brother in their clutches, at their mercy. And the choice hangs in the air between them. To do exactly as is expected, or to seek their own option C, D, and E. When we slipped away, Lucio was surrounded by the shadows of the alley, Vivi equally obfuscated to the casual passerby, while Hestia, Miriam, Sophia, and Silvio waited at the stolen vehicle they had proclaimed as their own. And the decision hanging in the air like a sword of Damocles leaves us fully with our attention focused on Lucio.
So as I recall, we'd spoken with Vivi, and Lucio had spoken in private about the potential plan.
Yes.
And I believe he offered her some tutoring as well.
He may have thought it. He never actually said that. He just offered that she could use the assistance, so you could use the learning of how to use her abilities. He never said that he would be the one to do so.
Well, then he will make that part clear. So basically, continuing off from where Lucio had left off last week, like just explaining to Vivi about what exactly his idea is. Basically, that if she goes through with the faking her death plan, then after that is successful, he can help her learn how to, number one, hide better, and number two, use her powers more effectively.
So you're saying that even with the easy promise that my death would obtain for you, you are willing to go against those who are expecting you to do what is in your best interest?
I am, yes.
And the others that I do not completely know?
You mean Miriam and Sophia?
Yes.
I haven't known them for long, but so far they haven't let me down. They're trustworthy enough. Sophia is technically related to the Castiglione Tories, but is a distant enough cousin to want to oust them as well. So she can be relied on to achieve that goal. And Miriam, as far as I know, has no direct connections to any of them. And has so far been working with us, so I trust her enough to rely on.
In light of any other options, I have no choice but to trust your judgment in this. So how are we going to do this?
There exists a clan called the Zimish, I believe it's pronounced. They have a unique ability, much like how we have the unique ability to manipulate the shadows. They have a unique ability to manipulate flesh. If we could find one who is quiet, shall we say, about their work, we could theoretically have one of them sculpt you a new face, and at the same time sculpt another person to have your face. If you want to think about it in a less stomach-churning manner, did you ever see that Nicolas Cage movie, Face Off?
I didn't get much chance to watch many action movies, but I believe I understand what you're speaking of.
Think of it like that. You're basically going to swap faces with someone else, and you will be giving up the identity of Vivi in exchange for having the freedom to pursue your goals.
And you've already lined up this person. This is a surety. This is an actual planned event. Not that they have much choice, but your silence is not very affirming.
None of this is affirmative. No plan survives first contact with the enemy. That's as the saying goes. But it's the only plan that we have where we can all make it out of this still unalive at the end. And still having a clear shot at bringing down the Hecata.
So where would you like me to disappear to until this is all settled, or we may have the opportunity to do as you're suggesting?
I can see if we can arrange to have you hide outside the city for a time. I hesitate to suggest going to Blakeney so soon, but that may be the best choice until we find a permanent solution for this.
And while Lucio discusses the finer points of the idea of the plan with Vivi, we turn our gaze once more back to the limousine, the armored vehicle on wheels that the coterie has made their own. Hestia had initially been telling everyone that Lucio's anger may get the best of him, forcing his hand to end Vivi's existence. How would Sophia and Miriam respond to understanding that, or being told that? As Miriam's phone vibrates and gives a small, soft, bird-like chirp.
Are you sure he's not just quietly killing her? He does have quite a temper.
Miriam discreetly glances at her phone, and she grins just a little tiny bit before shrugging in response to Sophia.
Well, there ain't no screaming. Of course, there's a lot of quiet ways to put someone out of their misery.
She doesn't strike me as the sort who would go quietly.
Lucio tends to be rather loud. So I guess we continue to wait then.
So as the waiting continues, we shift our gaze back down into the alley.
No, Hestia, after you said I think we can continue to wait, Hestia goes, no, they've had enough time to figure this out, and she goes to get back out of the car.
Comfort has many benefits, and as Hestia opens the car door, Miriam
Miriam, were you trying to do something? I mean, he's giving you that moment.
Oh, no, I'm simply waiting for everyone to be back in the car at this point.
Okay, so as he trips down the alley, finding Lucio and Vivi in the middle of a conversation, what is it that takes place?
Hestia clears her throat. We're burning moonlight here. If daddy-daughter time is over, can we, get a move on, please? Whatever that's gonna happen.
Don't ever call me that again.
Why not? Why like the idea of being a daughter?
Lucio just looks wide-eyed at Vivi for that comment. Don't encourage her.
It was not my intention. As you all make
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was simply saying, as you all make your way back towards the car, or Lucio decides to act at the least expected moment of surprise.
I was actually just going to say that we should be going to the car now. So,
alright, sounds like a plan. So as you all make it back to the vehicle, back to the car, back to the customized lap of luxury that is a cross-dressing version of an armored personnel carrier, and you all enter back in, Sylvia opening the door and allowing you entrance and moving around to the driver's seat. Where to?
oh,
Well,
I just had a thought, actually.
go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Lucio just has a quick thought back to something that Sophia had said earlier in the evening about being watched. And out of an abundance of paranoia, Lucio is going to activate his Oblivion sight and look around.
Excellent. Would you be so kind as to roll your wits plus stealth, please?
Wits and stealth.
Yes.
Is it is a 3.
You've all seen Lucio empty out the balance of his soul into the Shadowlands often enough. You sometimes forget what his actual eye color is. This is one such moment where him stepping into the car with the absence of all things sitting where his eyes should be is Tuesday for you guys. And as he looks over each of you and that unsettling aspect that comes into play, not being able to see any semblance of light in his eyes, there's a look that passes over his face that is unmistakable of fuck. Oh, hang on a second. Okay, sorry about that. That was my
All
son
good.
calling. Yeah, his issue with his car, but it, for the evening is settled. So, as Lucio looks around the car with the definitive oh fuck face, there is that moment of opportunity for the rest of the coterie and for Lucio. Yep, there is the easiest way to describe what this is a skeletal remains of a Union soldier with, instead of having a human skull as its face, in fact has the taxidermied head of a raven sitting just over Hestia's shoulder.
Sophia, we have company.
You sound shocked by that.
And it looks at you, Lucio. Ka? As if it realizes that so far you are the only entity that sees it.
I'm just curious as to how she doesn't feel that if it's just over her shoulder.
The same way that you don't feel the atoms in the air around you. Same way that without focusing specifically on that other world that exists on top of ours, it is invisible to your detection.
So you're saying her time at the shelter has made her nose blind to when creepy things are happening.
It's Tuesday. Why would you expect something that normally happens on Friday?
Lucio is going to say aloud, Hestia, don't panic. But there's something on your shoulder. Yeah, I'm talking about you.
That's not the way to start a conversation about not panicking.
Well, it seems to have worked. You're not panicking right now.
With that being said, she goes into Sense the Unseen.
Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your Wisp plus awareness as you begin scanning the area in and around the coterie inside the small confines of the vehicle. There's a verdant world that exists on top of ours. It swims through our world, passing like the many creatures of the deep, coexisting and preying on one another, and oftentimes in the same breath. And looking around the car, there is the distinct and very visible party taking place. There are the essences and whiffs of all of the many inebriated moments that have happened in this vehicle throughout the years. There are the many slight touches and remaining oral presence of all of those spirits, and sitting next to you, sitting atop of your space, not quite crossing into your aura, is the spirit of some violent man who had done violent things, who now utilizes those skills earned through a life of wartime in service to other masters. His uniform, strangely enough, relatively polished. The edges crisp, the buttons nice and shiny, as if he takes care every morning to make sure that his dress uniform represents his station in life. And instead of the desiccated remains of a human skull or the like, there sitting is a taxidermied raven beneath his hat. Huh?
Size difference I would think of somebody's body compared to a raven head would be, I guess, maybe comical to me. So she's kind of looks at Lucio. Well, he obviously pissed somebody off in his past life, because that matchup, well, but ravens are news bringers, so it's only fitting if we're being spied on that this would be the form it would take. But I also think this guy is good at violence, or was good at violence in his past life. So, there's that.
I guess I will also need to sense the unseen here so I can see what I'm dealing with.
Meanwhile, Miriam just sits there and I guess looks at Hestia's shoulder and is like, I don't know.
And as you all come to grips with the image of the specter in your midst, and all of the fading and slightly glowing essences of all of the parties and those who were tied to this vehicle, who have potentially moved on, as the saying goes, the euphemism. What is it that you three decide, considering you are the only ones that might attempt to interact with that spectral visitor in your midst?
Lucio's. Go ahead.
Well, I'm guessing Sophia would probably have a better idea of where it came from or who it's connected to. Hestia just can normally pick up, like minglings or lives and stuff like that, but she doesn't really do much as far as knowing what things are tied to, as far as I know. As far as I've used, so that would definitely be more Sophia's thing. I mean, she could try interacting with it and see what happens.
Does it have eyes or just a stuffed head?
It is the entire stuffed body of a taxidermied raven, where the skull should be.
She will try to speak to it then. Why are you here?
Ka.
Perhaps you should return to your master.
Its head turns askew like its raven that exists where its head should be. Its wings extend and it turns askew like a dog, curious as to what it's actually seeing.
Is that the best idea? Shouldn't we want to prevent that?
You would rather wait until it sees all it needs to see before it returns to its master?
I would rather it doesn't return at all. Or if it does, it can't speak about what it's seen.
And Lucio hears his own empty lunged spectral voice coming back to him what it sees.
So you can mimic voices.
So you can mimic voices.
Well, then what other voices can you mimic?
Car.
Do you have a name, spirit?
Do you have a name, soon to be spirit?
Did he just threaten you?
I think it did. Sophia, what do you think the best course is to do with this spirit?
The best course is to cast it into the maelstrom.
And how do we do that?
Maelstrom.
No, it automatically works on
There is no we
but
in how we do that.
well it works. I guess the rule is.
And yes, it mimicked Hescher's voice in the moment, saying that's not how it works. What is Sophia's occult specifically for necromancy?
4.
Oh, okay. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your intelligence plus occult or oblivion, whichever is higher?
They're the same.
No, that's not him.
Much like the many souls that Sophia has parlayed into service of her will, she understands that there is a strata, a case system amongst the dead. And this one is one of the lower case. It is a soul bound into service through someone else having its connection with the existing worlds, both Shadowland and Skinlands, which means sheer power. There's not much to it. Which means, like all things when surrounded by predators, it is always on the lookout for something stronger than itself. It is always willing to yield to something stronger than itself.
So I'll make you this offer one more time. You will I suppose return to your master, because where else would you go when you are expelled from this area? But if I've got to start saying the words and cut my wrist open, there is no turning back from that.
Not that crows can effectively communicate a frown of confusion, but that is definitely the feeling that permeates through the car. And as it considers your words and looks at the paleness of both you and Lucio's mirrored orbs, with the touch of the skin, of the touch of the Shadowlands leaking through him, the very essence of all things end, which is what the Oblivion signifies, which is what that place is. The eventual nuclear half-life of every living and unliving thing. There's some power raised. There's some hint of permanent end. And failure, though it might be considered, it would be best to risk its chance to at least bask in the essence of its tie to the many worlds as it can, even if it means returning to the Shadowlands as something else's sandal or sword or shield or bifocals, and it fades, leaving you all with the remnants of its touch, and not just its touch, but the touch of all of the souls bound and linked and floating in the ether due to this vehicle's continued existence.
I will call up my retainer and ask it to follow it.
That wouldn't even require a roll, considering you are in possession of its fetter, and you have already successfully kowtowed it on multiple occasions. It is off and running, as the saying goes. Seeking for literally the proverbial needle in a haystack. In a city the size of Chicago, there are hundreds of dead, and while it can mark its passage if it stays within spiritual acuity of it, it is a large city. There is much ground to cover, and there are many things between here and there, especially in the Shadowlands. And while that chase happens unseen to the many living and unliving denizens of Chicago, and the car continues moving, where is it that you are headed?
So do we have a plan?
I have a lead
Go on.
with the face changing thing. Over in Thornton Township, there should be someone. He kind of rules the domain.
Their name?
I think it's Romanian. I'm not that great with foreign languages, but I will pick up my phone and turn it around and show the name, or what I assume to be the name.
Has Hestia heard this name before or seen this name before?
It is Decipal Albu.
You all were at a party. Lucio, you did make it in time to see all of the wondrous myriad of things that they were able to arrange. You did catch a glimpse and a glimmer of the humans twisted and sculpted so that their veins were delivery systems for blood, but that was purportedly the Voivod of Art, one of the many associates of the Toreador of Chicago, the Ricmar Domesticu from the north. There's no effective business done with someone called it Decibel Albu. Or is it Decibel? Interesting. Romanian is an interesting language.
It is.
C, sometimes sounds like it's Z or CH. It's a wondrous language.
So you mean to say that Lucio's never heard of this man before?
No. You all do remember the last time that Disney mentioned being somewhere in the south. She was beset by a number of Thin Bloods and was nearly kidnapped. You found out that she was nearly kidnapped for her vitae to be someone else's prey. The South is the wildlands. Officially, the entirety of Chicago is the domain of the Tower. Unofficially, all locals know there's a point of no return where you're officially considered outside of Chicago, where your status as members of the Tower is a iffy thing. It is a ill-considered thing, and that line is 7900 South. Past 79th Street, even though it is still within the city limits, it is officially considered, well, just outside of public scrutiny. All manner of things have been found south of 79th Street, including the initial home that led Lucio to understand that there was a wider conspiracy of would-be blood dealers breaking into the market, counteracting and countermanding the blood czar. Those who, well, had ties to both Theus and Blakeney. It is the wild, wild west, or at least the idea of that border town free of actual civilization, but with civilization breathing down its throat. So all of those many, numerous beings outside of that no man's land are technically considered far wilder. The only persons, the only known entities that exist there or who operate there are the Tremere. There's Golgotha Chantry, there's the Chantry of the Iron Rose, there are several other places in the south where, to be perfectly blunt, the Tremere keep many, many secrets.
So, I'll admit I don't know much about the kindred south of the city. Do you know anything about this guy, Miriam?
Not much other than he is the person I was told to get a hold of.
Well, considering the only other Zamish that I know of are associates of the Toreador who hate us, I wouldn't take my chances with them, so I suppose this guy's as good as it's gonna get.
Ever is.
Suppose that I would be sent to him if he was just going to turn on us immediately. I hope.
You hope.
I do have some reservations. The more parts we add to this plan, the more likely it is to break.
thing with Thornton Township right now is that they are not technically a tower city. And if I'm hearing correct from sources, they are trying their best to pull away from being a tower city or tower township. So running to the tower to rat on somebody would not be in their best interest, especially if they're trying to fly under the radar and not catch the attention of Chicago. So if he is a big muckety-muck baron, whatever ruler type there, then he definitely would not want Chicago in his business. Which means he would probably either turn us down because he doesn't want us a chance that what we're bringing would bring Chicago to him, or he would help us just because we're going against something the tower wants. So, whichever direction, but he'd probably still be helpful.
But then you also have to worry that the secret he sells to buy his autonomy is yours.
Do we have any better alternatives?
There are no good alternatives.
There's those.
It's all on how you sell it.
You can sell that I escaped your clutches. I vanished into the night. You pursued me as far as you possibly could, and I simply disappeared.
That will not satisfy the obligation. We will then be tasked to go get you again.
The alternative is time.
Time?
Time.
And the fact that if we just let you run off or you escaped, that doesn't help us get Lucio's family back from the Castigliones because they want your head.
Did you ask for proof of life? We could find where they are with a little bit of information. We could rescue them.
Well, that's all well and good. So far, Mama Cass and the group have been, 1 to 2 steps ahead of us with anything we've tried. So you don't think they'd keep the girls close at hand or move them around so that Lucio couldn't find them?
Well, Lucio doesn't know where they are, and if he kills me, he would never know where they are, especially being as they are much further south than Thornton Township. I know where they are approximately operating from. I've kept an eye on that church. It is a complex unto itself. It is a veritable fortress.
Where do you propose that Spirit was going to go after I frightened it off?
If I were to say, I would say that it is returning to either Don Castiglione himself or his wife, and they are both, last I had the opportunity to keep tabs on them at that particular church. Me and Lucio could go in a blur of shadow and darkness and rescue his family.
So presuming that my little spy, my little slave, is not destroyed on the way there and back, we will know where that is, will we not?
Yes, but do you believe that the 4 of you could mount a military campaign to rescue Lucio's family without loss? It is, in fact, a fortress.
Surprise helps. There's no point we're going to have more resources on our side than what we have now. The alternative is to give you over or destroy you.
And that helps no one in this vehicle.
Which is why we want to help you disappear for a time. It's not just the Don who wants you dead. The Prince and the Primogen have decided that because you've been attacking the Hecata, you are risking a treaty that has been in effect, and they also want you dead.
That is a misunderstanding of the situation. They want her dead because Dawn wants her dead. If that situation were to become quiet, they would probably no longer care, other than the fact that she was created without permission.
It seems to me that the answer is really simple. I disappear. Either way. So let us go to this Aldo and see if there's a way that he can help. Maybe. Do you have an address?
Sort of. Do we have a candidate in mind for this appearance change?
Swap?
Yes, you know another kindred that you want to sacrifice to save this one.
We could find one.
At the kindred mart, or
As much as I hate to say it, because again, I'm supposed to not be the monster. Who says it has to be a kindred? I mean, wouldn't it be easier to get a human body? You know, than transfigure and all that good stuff, and then just take the head like we were supposed to do, and take pictures and have proof.
It depends on how we want to deliver them, I suppose. And it's not exactly a painless procedure.
I mean, if we were going to do it the easy way, we wouldn't be looking for a sacrificial lamb to fleshcraft into her to make her look like her and her look like someone else and then hide them.
It doesn't have, well, the person that we're sacrificing doesn't have to be a her.
I don't think the gender changes the point.
I'm just saying, it doesn't have to be a her.
You're right. We have a perfectly good body at the shelter. Why didn't I think of that?
You know, if we are hell bent on this plan, I have an idea.
Go on.
It's a very good idea, actually. You sired her. Who else have you sired?
No, you're not thinking.
No, just think. That would almost be ironclad even if the Tremere were involved.
But Lucio looks at Vivi. But she's my favorite of the two.
Miriam looks so confused.
We do not have to turn her into him. We just have to turn him into her.
Looking at Miriam's confused face, she leans over and whispers, "Remember the fact that Junior is not really the Dawn's offspring, or not offspring, child.
Child.
Yes, that. So technically,
Gotcha.
it would be irony. It would be pretty fucking sweet irony to give them the head of.
A better
Oh my
plan
God.
than picking some innocent off of the street.
If we could find a way to perhaps bring, and she air quotes, her back staked and have them execute her, that would be even sweeter, would it not?
My God. It's so evil. But at the same time, I love it. I'm worried about what this says about me, but at the same time, it's genius.
It's a lot of risk in having them strike the blow, but if we could work it, it would be perfect.
I don't know how big of a favor he's going to ask in return, though. Keep that in mind.
Lucio, go ahead.
I like when I can to kill two birds with one stone. There's going to be downside. It should be worth it. Yes.
You're goddamn right it is. And Lucio looks at Vivi. So, how would you like Ignacio to take your place?
You mean you would like to have the Don's son become the Don's daughter, and the Don and his wife to kill their daughter?
Yes.
Well, then we are all on board. That's fine. Let's get Dizzy's brother back to his home. And you arrange with this Mr. Albo, or is it? Yeah, Mr. Albo, unless Volvad is like the Chinese version that goes last.
It's more of a title.
All of these titles. It was far easier being alive. Mr., Mrs., Sir, Madam. Not Prince and Primogen, and Seneschal and Sire and... Okay, title.
It's kind of a clan-specific aura.
Okay. So I get Dizzy's brothers back to his apartment. And I'll wait for you there. No one knows except for you all who her brother is. I've taken every step that I could to protect him, and unfortunately, as fate often does, it makes an irony and a mockery of such things.
I only grabbed him to be leverage against you, but we are in the court now, so his fate is for you to decide. I have no interest in him any further.
Well, let's get you two home then. We've got a long night ahead of us and a lot of planning to do.
So as you all wheel through Chicago traffic, as only local Chicagoans can, managing to outpace the movement on the expressway until there is no other opportunity or other option except for taking the expressway back. You traipse with your veil across the city, south and then north and then back south, and head into the suburbs therein to make that call necessary to reach out to the Boulevard. And while you plan on how to obtain Ignacio, when time alone in the car with the four of you, 5 counting Sylvia, who at every request is sure thing. Is there any matter or any planning that you all would like to obtain or would like to do?
You think you can draw him out, Lucio?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So do you think you can draw him out, Lucio?
I can certainly try. I tried asking him to call me before, but probably email would be better. Thinking back, we've known each other for a long time. I think we might have some ways of getting in touch beyond the typical methods.
Barring that, is there a way to track him?
I mean, I don't think he's been microchipped, but you never know with some parents.
The one thing I will say in all this, though, is whatever we decide to do to lure him out or get a hold of him, it cannot be able to be traced back to us, because if they figure out what happened to him, we are fucked.
We're already fucked.
It's simply a question of how deep we want to dig our graves.
Even if they find out, it shows that you have teeth finally. You're not going to sit around and take it from him any longer. And he knows he cannot redress the grievance with the Camarilla because he knows he does not have a grievance. This is not the Hakata matter. You're killing the Sombra. So if we can lure him out, that would be the first step. There are at least 3 of us here who can see across the shroud to see if he's been followed. We'll take care of the eyes that he has upon them before we do what we do, and then they are coming in blind.
Plotting of a murder rarely happens with this much forethought. It's usually a crime of passion or a momentary decision where another person, another being's life does not continue past that point. In the most clinical of instances, there are several words for the entities and beings capable of such planning. Miriam, you were saying?
So we're doing this then, yes?
It is plan A.
So yes, we're doing this.
All right. So in that case, if we're actually going south, you should probably be aware that, well, the gentleman we are going to go see isn't blood. He's blood.
Explain.
Does part of why I said another plan is time?
Meaning what?
Given time, a fair amount, I can sculpt.
She's trying to say that they are members of the same clan. Duh.
Oh.
This is a thing you can do now.
If it was, I wouldn't have reached out to my sire to get a contact in town who could do it.
So when then, like tomorrow, next week? Because if it's longer than that, we don't have that time.
Years, possibly.
I think it's best we reach out then. Unless you have some way to expedite that process.
We did tell your prince we would have the matter solved within a month, and that is about up.
Then we're gonna need to resolve this. We're gonna have to go to this decibel.
Is Vivi still with us, or did we drop her off?
You guys are alone.
You realize, of course, Lucio, that if we save Vivi, you may need to take the accounting for her.
I'm aware. And as unprepared as I am to be a sire, I will accept the responsibility.
If only you had older vampires around who had done much studying to help you.
If only I was an older vampire.
I think she means Critias. But anyway, plan B is you don't have to kill her. Somebody else will, don't worry about it.
I feel like if it does come to it, it should be me. I'm the one who brought her in. Why are you giving me that look?
You bark really loudly, but the bite ain't quite there yet, sweetheart. I mean, you act real tough. And if I didn't know you better, when you went all deep voiced on me in the alleyway earlier, I would have been a little scared, but I know better. I don't really think you'd ever really hurt me. So, that's the thing. If I know better, I know better.
That reminds me. Sorry about that.
I thought it was a little hot, but anyway, let me not get distracted right now. The fact is, I knew you wouldn't hurt. And that's the point I have made, and that is the point Arsenio has made at some point, I'm sure. The point he told me he made with you is that when you kill somebody, you kill them because you want it over and done with quick. You don't do it out of malice. You don't do it out of retribution unless it absolutely has to happen. Normally with you, it's quick, done, and over with because it's a snap decision and a reaction to something. If you are going to kill Vivi or have to kill Vivi, it can't be a snap. It has to be a deliberate thing. I don't think you can do deliberate. That's just
Are we not about to murder my half-brother?
But he has it coming. That was a foregone conclusion in this war, that he was going to be a casualty.
And again, technically, he's already kind of dead. I already killed him once.
So is Vivi.
You already killed him once. Yeah, but you like her more than you like him.
You
I
need
do.
Vivi for the
He's your
dog.
half brother.
Vivi is instrumental in your war against the Dawn. After that, then whatever. But, we have made her some promises. We have made a deal. And it would be best to honor those if we can.
Agreed. Go ahead.
If it seems that perhaps there's not a way that she can just exist here, or you will take the accounting for her, we will just, she will disappear. She'll go somewhere else.
That seems most likely, but we'll see. We'll have to play it by ear, one game at a time. Hess, do you mind if I speak with you for a moment?
Sure, but we're in the car full of people.
Oh, we're still in the car. I, as the player, would like to retract that statement and save it for a later time.
You still have no idea of where you guys are going to, but Silvio is at least getting you close to Thornton Township. There hasn't been a determination aside from that as of yet, so what do?
Anyone got a juice box?
Oh, okay. Hestia went to the Pesketeers that one night. Would she remember where that is?
The local bar for what?
She spoke with somebody there after all that went down, right? Looking for Dizzy.
Oh yeah, the old Toreador lady. So you are heading into very close proximity to the Castiglions and making yourself known to the local kindred community so that word can spread.
No, but where else would we go? I mean,
a notable kindred hotspot, so that the idea that the Chicago Hounds are in the area prowling very near the Castiglions area of influence, as denoted by both Forcipulas as well as Vivi and several other sources along the way. You know what smallish towns are like. You know that word was spread farther than even the old aphorism that the lie would run around the world twice before the truth got its shoes on. There's a certain prestige in being hounds of the gleaming jewel of the tower. There's a certain infamy.
Okay, fine, forget I asked. Looks at Miriam. Well, the thing is, if we have to go to see this person, we should not stop anywhere else because small towns talk, and we are kind of a big deal. We're trying to fly under the radar here, so we should probably go directly to where we're going. But if this decibel guy is kind of like old school or older, I don't know if that's what it sounds like you're hinting at, then he probably would at least do that whole domain right of comedy, whatever, welcome to my house thing, and maybe have something to eat.
Oh, one can hope.
I mean, there's a juice box on every corner. Just look out the window.
But if you need something a little more official, I can maybe call Sephoa to have someone delivered. Are we
It's not
using this as an offer? Are we supposed to bring a housewarming gift? Is that tradition for your clan?
For some of the older ones, yes. For some of the younger ones, it's kind of a free-for-all.
Where does this guy fall?
Never met him. But if he's got the title, he's not a youngin'. Not a baby.
So a housewarming gift is ideal then.
Ideal, probably. At least it's not rude no matter what age.
So what do you get for the discerning monster who can craft flesh who has everything?
A fine vintage.
I do not know where we would pick one up on the way.
I'll give Sakura a call, and we can pick something up along the way.
Lovely.
As I think about it, I also have reservations that we are going down there and going, can you do a thing for us, but later, not now, because we do not have the things that we need done until later. So here's a whole bunch of time for you to maybe get a better offer and sell us out.
In other words, you want us to catch Arsenio first? I'm sorry, Ignacio first?
That or we are very vague about what it is we are wanting. The unknown man or woman, as the case may be, cannot betray us if he does not know how.
Fair point.
I think it may be best for Miriam to perhaps handle this on her own for now. She is an unknown face, a new factor to your coterie. She would draw less attention than if we all went in. If she is comfortable doing so. Or if that feels too dangerous, we can all go in. But it's, the plausible deniability.
At least for the inroads, it wouldn't be so bad. Some of the older ones kind of creep me out, though. Don't look human anymore.
You should meet my family.
Appearances can be deceiving. Is a much touted out chestnut. And the situation, as fraught as it is absolutely positively deceiving in the sheer number of threads and strands being weaved together towards their end goal. 100 different steps, 100 different ways things could go sideways or worse. And as is always the case, there is strength in numbers, but there's more strength in purpose of those numbers. So bound though they are to the loose ideals bandied about, what is in fact the coterie's primary step towards these goals? Are they going to continue heading into Thornton Township to drive around until they find a way to contact the Boulevard, or are they going to pursue Ignacio at this point and bring him into their clutches? Or are they just going to head back to the shelter and shore up their defenses and await the coming storms?
I would like to make inroads with the Voivod as soon as possible before we catch Ignacio, because if Ignacio goes missing, the longer he's missing, that's going to sound alarm bells for Don and Mama Cass. And that's going to make them do something even more drastic than what they've already done. I'd rather have our plan prepared and then enacted as quickly as possible so that they don't have the opportunity to react or suspect anything.
That is fair. Time is important here. Silvio, how far are we from the zombie? Have we set that up?
We can swing by one of the things now if you like.
Might be a good time to make overtures, see if they want to come on board, especially if we're going to fire the first shot.
Do you think they'd be able to provide us a gift for the Voivod?
It's possible.
Might save me a call.
If we are all going, I must ask if any of you had any dealings with the zombie. They are quite unpleasant on the eyes.
Never met him, but I've met plenty of Nosferatu.
This is a little different.
Oh?
I would hate to ruin the surprise.
And what a surprise, in fact, that it is. Driving into Thornton Township, there's quite a few things that one would notice, especially being Chicagoans or New York or from Sicily or from Napoli or all of those other more Mediterranean places around, urbane places around the world. The fact that Thornton Township itself has less people per capita than 3 neighborhoods in Chicago is, well, troubling considering it inhabits more actual space. It is considerably larger for the amount of people that reside there than most other places in Chicago entirely. And the places that are inhabited to a heightened level of urbanity still don't amount to the average block in Chicago, and you're talking several square portions of a mile. The per capita rate is exceedingly low. And even exceedingly low as it is, the sheer number of storefronts or freestanding churches is ridiculous. The moment you cross the river into Dalton, you begin seeing churches after church. As you make your way down Lincoln Avenue after getting off the expressway there, you see a huge complex. There are 3 churches on the north side of the street in the first quarter mile, 3 churches on the south. You go half a mile further down, there's another large mega church sitting there. And as you make your way down Lincoln Avenue into Dalton, the sheer number of churches is like a warning, like a challenge, as if these were in fact beacon lights to light the way of incoming enemies. And as you all near Ingleside, and make a left. Well, I'm sorry, make a right south on Ingleside and circle around the block several times, you realize that the mega church there, its peaked steeple, its glowing neon lit cross is your location. It is where you all are going. And there is no small amount of issue. Because unbeknownst to herself, you've passed church after church and driven close enough to see the signs out front or the signs hanging in the window. More and more Vitae-soaked sweat begins to stick to Hestia's skin.
Yeah, I was about to say, she starts kind of rubbing at her skin like it's itchy. And giving a slightly manic look in their eyes, and almost panicky, and breathing hard, and again rubbing really hard at her skin and coming away with like the sweat blood on her hands, and just like trying to hold herself together.
Hess, you okay?
Miriam will arch an eyebrow.
Remember that thing I told you about the churches? Well, these are a lot of churches, and these are all holy still. Oh, it's not good. It's not good. It's good. It's just like rubbing hard, and like shows them her hands.
Lucio is going to pull back his sleeve and offer his wrist to Hestia. Look, maybe this will calm you down, and I owe you anyway for what happened back there. If you think it'll help, you can have.
Would drinking from Lucio help her at all, or does she know that that's not the way to fix this?
She's never tried.
The scientist in her is curious. The thinking, feeling person in her is mildly dissuaded because she's never really done that sort of thing before. It's always been a willing kind, or like a blood bag, so this is like a little weird for her. Except for that one time he saved her life, so then that would have just like looking at him, and I don't know whether that would make it stop. I guess I could try. And then she brings his wrist to her mouth and just very gently bites into him.
If something or someone was able to see a kindred's mind at the point of feeding, they would see all of the pleasure centers of that mind light the moment the fangs slipped beneath another's skin, the moment that the blood over Tay began to flow. All of those lights would flicker on and off with such regularity and frequency as to cause an epileptic to go into immediate convulsions. On the receiving end, the person being fed on, those exact same pleasure centers and nerve clusters and clusters of neurons would alight, though not as rapidly. The penultimate idea of pleasure would still fill them. There is a small bit of a fugue state that would fall over them with such activity happening so quickly, so overwhelming. Now, while the kindred are in fact truly and well dead, feeding is as close as they will ever come to life. And not just life, but the epitome of all the pleasure they could possibly hold within their being. In the rush of chaos and the storm and drain of battle, it's a little different. You don't quite realize, you don't have time to either appreciate or denigrate how predatory the kindred mind and its beast is. But in the quiet moment of the car, the realization is impossible to escape. And Miriam, would you be so kind as to roll 1/3 your humanity and your unspent willpower? Your DC is 2.
Just 1/3 my humanity.
Yep, 1/3 your humanity and your unspent willpower.
Lovely.
There are some things that are undeniable. There are some things that are eventual. The eventuality of being a kindred is that the beast will have its way with you. The eventuality of being kindred is that the scent inside of blood will eventually overwhelm the person, will eventually overwhelm good reason, and the beast will have its day. And the man or the woman inside will regret or bemoan such a thing happening, all the while still receiving all of the upside of it. That day is not today for Miriam, though not quite completely ravenous, is very close to that fact. And as the interior of the car fills with the scent of vitae, there is that push, there is that nudge, there is the attempt by the beast to subsume control. And that very plaintive, growly, animalistic, but why not me? Echoing through her, Miriam tamps it down with a practiced hand. But without a shadow of a doubt, having not had the opportunity to feed in some time with the beast far closer to the surface, there is an unspoken promise between Miriam and her beast. Soon.
Are you all right?
She will just keep her fingers clenched, little fists, nails digging into her palm. I'll be okay.
Not a biter.
No, that's fine. Just a little hungry.
Perhaps where we are going, they may be able to help you. Perhaps not. My family is often in the blood trade. People do not like it much when we have to bite them.
And as the moment slowly slips and slides as it does into the present. The reality of the place where kindred might lay their head or might have access to being holy strikes all sorts of mental dissonances, because there is very few things about kindred that one could ever say represents any facet of holiness. Yet even those amongst you who do not have the ability to feel or sense such things knows that you are parking atop hallowed ground. Something has been consecrated and protected and otherwise imbued with the might of belief. Because at essence, that's all holiness is. That's all consecration is. It is the belief that this place is clean on a spiritual and ethical level, or that this place is purely devoted to some belief in the spiritual, the holy, the unimagined, the bounteous harvest that one might receive for a lifetime of goodness in this purgatory that is the existence that you all cling to. And as Silvio steps out of the car, moving around it to open the door, that essence filters in like a fine perfume. There is no shadow of a doubt that this place is consecrated. And as Hestia, floating blissfully on the idea, the feelings engendered from that small bit of a kiss, that small uptick, that small cessation of that voice, feels its power. She and Sophia have a very, very impolite idea to deconsecrate a thing. All it takes is a little blood, a little innocence spilt or lost. All it would take is blood taken in violence with the idea of murdering that thing. That hate, that enmity, that loss of life would break all boundaries of consecration.
With the way she's kind of floaty right now, and then really not wanting that panic attack to come back, how hard of a fight would it be for her to not want to follow through with this?
Do you want to be safe? Do you want to not be someone else's victim? And you have the way to make it happen? How much do you want to constantly be at someone else's disposal? They set up all these walls, these visible ceilings, keeping you down, their foot on your back. And you have a way to defend yourself. You have a way to make sure you are not someone else's prey. Come on, why wouldn't you take it? Why wouldn't you not get the boot off of you? Why would you not rise to your feet instead of crawling and cradling on your hands and knees at their whim and their wish? As your grandmother used to say, it's a sad dog can't wag his own tail.
Is there somebody near at hand getting out of the car that would fit that bill? besides Silvio, because that's not something she would do.
You're basically going to just go ahead and roll your wits plus brawl. There is a woman exiting her minivan just across about 3 cars away from where you presently are. With your speed and your strength, you could be on top of her and emptying her out like a squeeze box all over the parking lot beneath her vehicle. Shove her back into her minivan and no one will be any the wiser for at least a few hours, maybe a few days. You could paint the ground beneath her vehicle. Most people would think that it'd be oil, especially with the dim light from the streets that are shining through this parking lot. The getting close enough to smell the slight copper iron in her blood. Nobody would be able to do that. Not within the next couple of hours. And you do carry your ceremonial dagger. You could make it quick. She wouldn't even know what's happened. She'd just merely wake up in her just desserts, either heaven or hell. And that would not be on you. That would be on the life that she's led.
As soon as the thought hits her, and she gauges the distance between them and the woman, one of her sheathed blades in her coat, the one that she tucks up into the little wrist ones, starts sliding down out of the sheath because she's pushing it out, and she's gone from their side. Boom, like that, just missing. And then back. Discreetly kind of wiping the blood on the back of her pants. And I also get an extra die because it's a knife attack.
Sure. Heshia's back. As Heshia's stepping out of the vehicle, you all see her slipping a bloody knife back into its sheath. And you hear the crumpling of a body hitting the canvas top of the parking lot, hitting the hard top. There's a sudden explosion of blood that hits the air like someone is using blood-scented Febreze pointing in your direction. The whiff caught from the wind, the slight breeze, and the sudden just swoosh is enough to draw your attention. And sadly, Miriam, would you be so kind as to roll your 1/3 your humanity plus?
Yep, I knew that was coming.
I'm helping.
You're not helping.
I mean, she only needs a little bit of it. You can have the rest.
That's what I said. I'm helping.
It's amazing how resilient the human body can be when it no longer needs to any of its organs to continue existing. Is amazingly how resilient the body can be when powered by infernal magic, when it is empowered by the blood of Cain and has the ability to house a soul stolen back from beyond. Unfortunately, the resiliency of the human body in such a condition does not apply to those who need their organs to continue existing. The resiliency granted by being, in fact, truly and utterly deceased, as far as any scientific evidence could prove, is not inherent in those who need to breathe, those who need the circulation system of their veins and arteries, those who need their heart to continue beating. That resiliency is completely, totally out the window. Hestia would have met with more resistance if someone had clothed her in wet art paper. Hestia would have had more resistance in ending a life in the blink of an eye if it was protected by a wall of pillows. Hestia would have had more resistance in shuffling a mortal off of this coil if but someone raised an intellectual argument. In the doing, there is, without a shadow of a doubt, for our necromancer, the feel of being washed over and raked over by a lightning bolt. When a human soul is ended, when its animating presence, when its life here is over, especially in such a violent, quick manner, a sacrifice to all manner of infernal things, there is a release of energy that stretches across and sunders the shroud, tears it in places where it is thick enough to hold resilience, and completely obliterates it in places where it is in fact quite thin. This is one of those places. And as the ward versus spirits is torn asunder, when the consecration established and refortified time and time again is ripped away, the feel of this place and the fact that it is laid in circuit following the path of various ley lines being woven together, braided into a single path of energy, pointing it towards, well, that you're not entirely sure. You know the direction, but the fact that it is now being bombarded and washed over with all of that energy with no insulation, that there's no protection to stop the current from doing what lightning does, from doing what static energy does. Go everywhere and follow the paths of least resistance. It is invigorating. And it is, well, hard to deny that sometimes things just gotta die. And with that, it is 29 after the hour. We will return at 39 after. Let's make it an even 40. And I'll see you guys in a bit. guys are back.
Present.
I'm here.
I'm here.
All right. Well, we're all back. All right. So, as we stepped away, the power of death, well, the changing of the energy of being into the energy that remains, the soul of a person, was exemplified and echoes through those sensitive to such issues, to such matters. You can feel it along the skin. For those of the kindred and those of us who have entered into a place where death has recently occurred, there is a power and a solemnity to it. There's also a backlash of deconsecrating a space, of sundering its protections against the world around it, and the pooling of mystical energies that are ascribed to the ley lines, the magnetic ley lines of the world, rocket through the space as if the entire invisible spectrum to us is lit aflame. And for those of you who did not return your awareness to the world that exists this side of the shroud, it is literally like watching USC win one of the Rose Bowls. The stands empty. The specters and spirits pushed and shunted along by the spiritual might of all of that energy comes flowing through the space. And as the energy crackles and moves through the Shadowlands, the ramifications of such an immediate bloodletting washes over Miriam again. And while able to hold that line, to not give up on that stance of this is not the space, this is not my time, this is not seasoned properly, she holds fast, even though there's a small amount of goose flesh raised as the scent hits her nose full stop, as if Mike Tyson has decided that there is a spider that must be crushed. I'm sorry about that. It was just a bug right there on the tip of your nose.
Poor Miriam is just sitting there, fingers pinching the bridge of her nose, shaking her head back and forth like, God, give me the strength.
So, do you all stay outside and watch the happenstance that may or may not be taking place? Or do you all head forward into the church to speak with a member of the Samdi, the Abundant Christ Loves Ministry? It is the very epitome of what a reasonably sized mega church could be and should be. You can see that while the church itself is the in fact main building on this property, there are several other buildings close at hand. They're all single story and on the smaller sides, the size of 1 and 2 car garages, but they're clearly used for other spaces, other things besides storing vehicles and Christmas decorations from 3 years ago. These are buildings that are used to feed the poor, mendicate, prepare for funeral services and other community factors on a small scale. It's not the super large, miles long property that you've seen on TV for places like Creflo Dollar and various other ministries of that nature. But it is definitely a megachurch, an economically priced megachurch, a center for the community's attention, and a focus for the spirituality therein. And like all such churches in such areas, it is in fact open late.
Well, in I go.
I suppose Miriam will head in after.
And Lucio will follow.
Hestia, of course, glances around one last time and settles. Like, if you've ever seen a bird settle their feathers after they got wet, and they're just like putting things back into place, that is basically physically what's happening with her. She just kind of shakes for a second and settles herself, and then lifts her head and follows behind the rest, with a little bit of a cat that got the canary smile on her mouth.
As you walk into the church, the fact that there aren't many parishioners is the boon towards you. You realize that without there being an abundance of non-initiated mortals around, you are able to speak with a little more directness. And as you all enter, you notice that they're at the front of the church, at the pulpit area, preparing things, moving hymnals around and moving some of the benches to better align so that the far back pews can see what's happening. You can smell a scent that for Lucio makes him think of Christmas or Thanksgiving. For Sophia, it's, well, there's a sacrifice that's typically made around those times where the family members get together, because there is power at the end of things and the beginnings of things. There's also power at its apex, but it's harder to subvert that power with a notable sacrifice. However, at the end of things, at the beginning of things, where natural forces meet in war for supremacy, there is power. And so there are various sacrifices made, various explorations of the near reaches of this shadow land done, near reaches of places that are beyond the average pale. And for Miriam, who has not been deceased nearly as long, there's the feeling of Easter. The family putting on their best and heading down to ye old church to be seen by the neighbors and shake hands and do a little bit of catch up for the fellowship that many take for granted, or many don't realize is the whole sole purpose of the gospel. Not as particularly religious, but definitely a spiritual family, and that's what this feels like. The scent that is in the air, that hint of cinnamon, you know that there's definitely something cheesy and some fowl, either a large turkey or maybe several large chickens with thyme and sage. It is definitely the scent of holidays. And you realize that the people, the cars, the humans that are coming in are making their way down the stairs. And for those of you who grew up in the church, you know that the repast, whatever it was always served in the church's basement. They laid out the long picnic tables and people gathered around and congregated and exchanged a good word here and there. And once everybody got their plate, there of course was a benediction or a prayer. And that's what you understand the victim, the sacrificial lamb slaughtered outside, was probably arriving for. Hang on a second, my tower's calling. Be right back. Sorry about that. So, with the scene set, and you all preparing to barter, trade, offer, the individual that's preparing and moving things and straightening up here at the front of the church. I'll place their picture up there for you guys.
Sophia will close her eyes for a minute and soak it all in, and then she'll go to the individual who seems to be preparing things. She will say, I apologize that I have not given the ample warnings of my presence, though I believe we made overtures to get together at some point. If you could tell them that Miss Sophia Rossi would beg for a moment of their time if it is convenient.
Well, it is not ever inconvenient to receive distant cousins. Silvio. Felix did inform me that you all will be stopping by. There are more of you than I expected. However, surprises can be nice. Are you all here to perhaps make a hostile takeover?
I don't know that I would call it hostile. But whatever we do, I would like the Somdi to be behind me.
Well, I'll ring up Felix. We believed we had scheduled it for the next hour. There's still quite a few of our humans around. But I suppose we could use the pastor's office. They won't be needing it. If you'll excuse me a moment, right this way. And he removes a horrifically dated Altel phone. And it's not actually an Altel phone, but one of the models that they purchased as a retro throwback. It is a slide from Moto that they retrofitted and to catch on the niche audience. And he slides it open with a click and begins quickly dialing one-handed, his left in the air, pinky slightly raised. If you'll accompany me this way, right this way, and he just quickly types on the screen without actively looking at it. When you get to the pastor's office, you know that it is exactly as you all feared. The opulence in the office is not something that the average pastor would be able to get past his flock. It is rich leather that has clearly been around for several decades. It is a wide oak desk polished to a shine. It is a slew of bowling trophies and tennis trophies along the wall. And there's a picture of an older gentleman with graying hair who looks like the gentleman before you, but slightly more active. And on the memorabilia goes, and it's the sort of place that you know is a sanctum sanctorum for someone who has no small amount of pride. Ah, yes, there we are. Felix will be along shortly. Miss Rossi, Silvio has been one of our, I'm sure in representation of yourself, one of our most active donors in recent years. In recent months, actually, though, there was a time when we could not keep up with demand. Now we are loads and loads ahead of our supply. Oh, I have something that those of you who have the affliction of being able to tolerate your living food, I would like you to try something. And he reaches into a desk and brings out a bottle of Patty's Irish whiskey. Though, for those of you who remember what whiskey was and what it looks like, you know that it's considerably darker. It has a hint of auburn to it. Would you be so kind as to try this and tell me what you think? And he pours 5 glasses and slides it across, and then he pours one for himself.
Lucio will give it a try.
Does anyone else?
Miriam will stare at it for a second, but she will try a sip.
I will give it a smell to determine whether it's something that is going to come immediately back up or not.
There are some days where it does not pay to go in certain dog's yard. There are some days where it doesn't pay to actually get out of bed. In this moment, in picking up that glass, those of you who inhale the acidic caramel whiffs of the less than stellarly distilled whiskey do note hints of iron, copper, and there's a subtle melony sweetness therein. It hints at so much more than any single glass of Irish, or especially mid-range produced Irish whiskey should. There's a promise floating there, a temptation floating there. Whether it stays down or not, and whether it's worth the risk or not, is entirely up to you. But for those of you who bother to imbibe, to take down the slug, you who have had the opportunity to feed on kindred know the taste of vitae as if it was the fondest memory from your childhood. It still has the alcoholic effervescence that you expect from a good mid-range shot whiskey, but there is a more than a subtle hint of vitae, and it coats the palate. And for Miriam, immediately and instantaneously, you feel the beast crawling around the edges of your consciousness, threatening to lunge forward, but the blend between the vitae and the alcohol keeps it from attempting to reach across that divide just yet. Remove one hunger, please.
Sweet.
Lucio, you've tasted better vitae. You've tasted better whiskey. There's something about the blending of the two raises this particular bottle of Patty's above most others. It's from one of our local purveyors. I'm not sure if you all are aware of the Rosie 2. It's a quiet little rock bar on the other side of the border over in Riverdale, but it is quite nice, don't you think?
This is very interesting. When do you plan to bring it to market?
We are working on a distribution deal with their manager now.
How on earth did they manage to make this blend so well?
I'm not entirely sure. I understand that they're quite popular. I'm surprised that you all didn't stop there on your way in. Last I remember, it is one of the quickest growing hotspots in all of Riverdale. And while it would be in our interest to steal, obtain, engage in corporate espionage to get the recipe, we are a little busy. I'm not quite sure if you all are aware. There's been a recent change in management here. And, well, we are doing our best to survive these very trying times. Your donations have helped maintain our supply of lucre, and the remunerations of such have offered for us to expand some of our operations. So what exactly... and here we are, the man of the hour. And in walks Felix Calixte. There's no way to say it. You can hear Godzilla in your head when he walks through the door. Dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. And that bass line with the drum, and it is, you feel as if you are being introduced to the final sub boss before you get down to brass tacks when he walks in. His near hazel colored eyes, the only shiny beaking in the middle of his face, his hair is waved, and his beard and mustache immaculately groomed. Dressed as he is clearly the bad guy, as the saying goes. It's like, you know a bad guy when you see one, and he has that image. If you were casting a bad guy of indiscriminate Latino, black, and mixed heritage, this would be your guy. You call central casting and say, hey, I need a bad guy. They'd send him. And then he speaks, and there's a immediately troubling aspect, because as he speaks, you could swear that he and View have the same dialectician, that same subtle air of education, that same subtle air of always being several words ahead in the conversation, if not several moves ahead mentally. Good evening, people. I'm Felix Calixte. I understand that we are here to discuss some matter of business. View, I'm sorry that I could not arrive sooner, but unfortunately the pastor needed some instructions. You must be Silvio. I've heard so much about you, and I have not heard about your friends. Hello, everyone. Yes, Felix, these are Miss Sophia Rossi, part of one of our many distant cousins. That is her man Silvio, which you know. And these are her other associates. She has not bothered to introduce them. No, she hasn't. They've been speaking quite nicely, actually. I think that they may not, in fact, be problems. You do so read my mind so very well. I'm glad that there won't be a problem, so we won't have to question them about the disturbance. Yes, about the disturbance. I sent the pastor to have his deacons. Oh, the deacons and the matrons of honor who are going to... Yes, they're going to search the perimeter. So, getting down to business, while that matter is taken care of, and you are clearly above suspicion in that regard. Yes, in that regard. Did you have them try? Yes, I had them try the patties. Oh, what do you all think? Yes, you were telling me what you thought about the patties.
Quite lovely, thank you.
That is good to hear, indeed. Your reason for actually being here, you are looking for, I believe they may be asking for our assistance. To what ends I have not quite found out yet. So what is in fact taking so long? I thought you'd like to get down to business. Normally, yes, but they are guests. Yes, but they're guests here with business. You're absolutely correct. Of course I am. You were saying...
She'll take a second to take all that in. As well as he has said, I'm Sophia Rossi. I have been placed here. I have been placed here for the time to deal with a certain situation that is occurring within the city. You may take that as you will, but I believe you know what I am driving at. And I do not believe that the situation is one that you probably consider very favorable for you and your immediate branch of the family.
No, we don't consider many things beneficial in this particular state. No, especially as our ploy to work with the current leaders of the realm have not quite worked out the way that we were hoping, considering especially as Blakeney has somehow managed to survive all attempts on her resistance. We thought surely that the matters in Chicago would have taken her out of operation, yet and still her and Naomi, pardon us, are seeming to mend fences. Yes, they are rebuilding the bridges they burned, which is quite odd considering that with all of their efforts in Chicago, yes, I assumed as such, especially being as the Castigliones, yes, the Castigliones have closed most of their operations in Gary.
Well, that is interesting in itself. I believe, and she'll look back to Hestia and Lucio, I believe Blakeney was on your menu as well, was she not?
She was. Things might change.
Hestia has spent this whole time, from the alcohol, she didn't drink it, mind you, and she was studying it. And then once these two came in, it was like watching somebody watch a bug in a jar, which she does often, mind you. So she has been like watching them go back and forth and like is fascinated by them to the point of like, you can tell she is thinking and like trying to figure them out in a way. So when Sophia points out the Blakeney thing, it's like she shakes her, like snaps back into herself and goes, huh? Oh yeah, Blakeney.
Seems like we have many common interests.
Oh, common enough. Yes, indeed, especially as you, as I stated earlier, are one of our most active donors. Yes, it is a little bit troubling considering that our average donors are in fact funeral homes and the like, and our few resources that we've managed through the Castigliones at the University of Illinois. Yes, they are quite troubling. Their donations have precipitously dropped recently. We'd expect them to have gone up, especially as Blakeney has seemed to regain not only all of her faculties, but her ability to outmaneuver them. And it is as if they are fighting maybe a multiplicity of fronts. We don't mind assisting, after all. That is what we are here for. Family, of course, coming before most other things. So, to drive home the point, you'd like our assistance. How may we best, usually beneficially of course, come to some resolution as to what we might actually do for you?
Well, what I would actually like is your friendship, perhaps a partnership. If it all goes well, we're going to make a hole, and that hole will need filled. Perhaps you have a candidate.
Several, actually. We were hoping to perhaps persuade the reigning senator of the Toreador there in the area, but unfortunately they seem to have no interest in any of the political arenas. We initially espoused them to step into place of Decibel, especially considering he is quite the butcher, but he so far has managed to stay out of the way, except for his bodyguard. Yes, her. Oh yes, her. She cuts quite the figure. Yes, but I understand she may be a little bit more feral than possible to work with, which means that he has a dog on the leash that definitely bites and definitely growls. So perhaps you all could manage to find some way to remove his guard dog. For us, of course. Or simply find a way to make friends with his guard dog so that we can have access to him without fearing the need to start a war on a multiplicity of fronts.
She will, at that, look back at Lucio and Hestia again.
You said, is this guard dog new or something more recent?
It's more recent for the most part. Decibel is a warlord. We don't mind. They're usually able to understand the usage of having a good business front. However, unfortunately, as he has managed to close off his captain to most other enterprises and seal up most of his borders with some sad semblance of loyalty and most of his men, he has gained quite frequently as of late. Seems as if he had been planning this for quite some time. Yes, it's a good thing that Dom isn't here to have to deal with him, because I fear that if she had the opportunity, yes, you're right, if she had the opportunity to unleash her fangs, I'm sure that he would not be as powerful as he is currently, as he is the reigning head of our township.
And I'm sure you're aware, but just to put on the table and clear the air and make sure we are all on the same page, you know that Wolfseek has moved into your territory down here, correct?
He's not far. We've had a few dealings. His donations have happened far quicker than usual in terms of the delivery. We do have a system worked out so that he can deliver directly without necessarily having to involve any outside resources, which is also troubling in regards to how quickly and actively has been donating as of late. He hasn't even matched his usual numbers before. Yes, before everything happened, before we became a United Township underneath Decibel.
Cassia very carefully looks at Miriam with a bruised brow of, oh, really now?
Miriam just replies with a shrug.
Is that the guy that we were going to meet?
Yeah.
Is that the same name? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe we may have some business with him as well. We may be able to tie this all into a neat package.
Neat is always better.
I agree. How do you feel about the Castigliones? Especially coming down here and making overtures so close to your backyard.
Officially, you are aware that as family, we don't actually engage in outright contention. However, it is, as always, when dealing with such individuals who are so criminally minded, not just business minded, but criminally minded in that particular case. And his recent... And they look from one to the next. Certain subversions that we need, or should at least own, it's a bit problematic overall. Yes, overall, we'd still at least have. No, you're right. We shouldn't go into too many details, but we still have the lesser known cogs in that particular machine. If you get what we're trying to say.
I do. Yes, just friendly family gossip we were having. We will perhaps speak on that some more later when there are no offense to my comrades, but this is family matter.
Yes, family. Always family.
Oh, you don't consider us close enough?
There are things I'm allowed to speak of and things that I am not allowed to speak of in front of you. Just, you probably have the same for me.
I mean, if you need some time alone, we could always leave the room.
No, it is fine. Make another appointment. It is amenable. We'll sit down. Does that sound amenable to both of you?
Oh, we love guests. Sorry, unfortunately, that you've come at such a poor time. We are recently experiencing some technical difficulties on other ends.
Well, something else we can help you with?
And they look at each other as if they are deciding how much or what exactly to discuss. We're not sure that it would be best in anyone's interest to involve you in that bit of technical difficulties at this juncture, but as far as our friendship, I'm sure that finding a way that we may have a back channel connection with Decibel would definitely secure our support for later days.
Well, let us focus on that matter first then. But my door is open should you need to talk about any other assistance you may require.
I believe that we should be able to handle any of things that may pop up recently, but I'm sure that you all know the easiest way to contact Decibel, correct? His haven on the south side of town.
Yes, I believe that is what has put us in the neighborhood, so it is very fortuitous that I had the thought to maybe stop and say hello and let you know that we are in your territory before going there. And now I do not need to go back and look the fool as I come on your behalf. Perhaps unbeknownst to him, but you know what I mean.
Well, you know what they say.
Well, you also said something about maybe bringing him an offering of something to smooth the way, so...
Yes, we do need to seek a favor from him. It's part of a larger picture.
You are in luck. We are nearing the end of our supply of this particular vintage from the Rosie 2, but in the name of friendship, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And with that, View produces another bottle from the desk and slides it across to you. We can always obtain more. In fact, we should probably head there this evening and pick up more, but there are other things that take more precedence. But for now, knowing that we have ease of opportunity to gain more, take this.
Well, that is very kind of you. I am in your debt.
Yes.
I do think the larger picture that I am speaking of, however, will be one that you also find pleasant to look at.
Oh, we enjoy all artwork. You're correct. We wish you nothing but success in your ventures. While we wrap up a certain matter here, seems as if we were recently under an attack. We will sort this out. It would probably behoove you to just visit Decibel sooner rather than later.
Of course, I do not want to take much of your time. I dropped in unannounced, but I thought it would be a friendly thing to do. Good fences and good neighbors and all that.
Excellent. We appreciate your friendship, and we wish you luck.
I will send word of what we have come to in this matter for you. And probably some more bodies, knowing my cohorts.
We are looking forward to it. It's a good way to maximize a different profit stream. Just in case you don't know his address. And with that, View produces a pen from his pocket and screws the cap and jots down the address. 15801 Cottage Grove Avenue, Dalton, Illinois. And he slides it across to you.
I will hand it to Silvio. Well, I wish you luck and a good evening. I will take no more of your time so you can attend to the business that you have on your plate. And to resupply some more of this wonderful concoction that you have been gracious to share with us.
Bon chance. Au revoir.
And on that, she will gather everybody up and head on back to the car.
Okay.
From where you are, just off of Lincoln Avenue, to the address listed is almost as close to a straight shot as you can be. Because you can literally take Lincoln down into Greenwood and literally all the way to the very edge of Dalton, right before you cross the next river and make a right turn going west. It is a 4.5-5 minute drive. And in that time, while you do cover a decent amount of space, there's not much traffic. While you all have had the opportunity of seeing the urban blight that is Chicago's South Side, while you have seen the packed in neighbors and social structures that is the west side of Chicago, that urbanized system of impoverishment holds not one candle to what you all witness as you all travail and travel through Dalton. There are more signs in the window, CEO, CFO, owner, proprietor. There are more individual self-owned businesses than you have ever seen. Yet, there are fewer people on the street. There's less nightlife. You see the warm glow of TV screens from behind curtains. Yet, there's a open airiness to the place that doesn't feel right. You guys are kindred of the big city. You're a kindred of Chicago and London, and you've been places and done things, and you're accustomed to the pressure that come from being in such an urbanized area as Chicago. The suburban sprawl of Dalton feels as if you are a deep sea fish brought up to the shallower depths, and there's an absence there that could be, well, as it nearly was for Dizzy, a death sentence. It's too open. You're too exposed. If anyone was watching you from a distance, it would not be hard to track or trace your movements. It feels as if all of the warmth of this suburb hides an insidiousness. As if there are eyes in the dark watching you move through the space. So as you all arrive at the address, which is, honest to goodness, a funeral home that looks like a castle. There are parapets, there's a tower. The driveway is long enough that if there was a sniper in any of those towers at that building, it would be a sure death sentence. The grounds are well kept and manicured, and every once in a while you will see a person off in the distance riding a riding mower, tending to the landscaping. Even at this hour, the livery is a earth tone brown with hints of gold all through it. Yet it's a sleepy, quiet little bird.
Have we seen that livery anywhere before?
Recently?
The brown and gold.
Recently?
Just in general. No. Doesn't matter, just in general.
Would you be so kind as to roll your wits and either performance or craft?
It's the same pool either way, but I'm just gonna roll.
You are rushing to the elevator. Lucio was being clawed over by a person who's no longer with us. Simone has spotted the helicopters in the distance. Julius had decided to play hero after chugging more than his fair share. He literally finished off roughly a fifth of the human's whiskey-laden blood. You saw a few of the servers and very well hidden security about the place as everything went to hell as Kindred were scrambling over one another to get underneath cover to escape the cameras and the helicopters. And you remember what the security were wearing.
She looks at Lucio. They were at a ball. The Striker's ball that went to Hell in a Handbasket. They were there. Or this person had their people there. Those uniforms are familiar.
Small world, yes.
Miriam will once again shrug.
So who wants to take the lead on this one?
Well, Miriam's the contact, so Miriam would probably be the better person to do this whole situation. I mean, I will definitely have her back, but she's of the clan, I guess, and that would go more along the way, I guess, than any of us outsiders saying anything, I guess.
You are comfortable with this, Miriam?
You will shrug, like fortune favors the bold, yes?
Sometimes.
Alright, let's do it.
And despite you feeling the eyes of fate and the hand of the future resting on your shoulder, guiding you forward step by step as you all exit the vehicle, knowing that you all are being watched by a multiplicity of eyes that are not your own or anyone you know, there isn't any emotion, there isn't any movement to detain, obstruct, or stop you all until you get to the door. The door that is 15 feet if it's an inch, which is 5 feet wide on both sides of the double door if they're a foot, as they swing open. The feeling of entering into a lord's castle is very hard to put down. It is as if you have stepped back in time several centuries to the feudal period, as if you were visiting some lord asking favor. You're expecting to see men-at-arms, knights dressed in gleaming medieval armor, long pole arms, or some other affectation of the past. Instead, as the door opens, standing central to the doors is a rockabilly dressed woman with braids that seem to stretch on forever. Her jeans just dark enough to seem black, even though you know that there's a hint of blue to them. The white athletic tee she's wearing beneath her motorcycle jacket standing out as if it is a badge of office. There doesn't seem to be any visible weaponry about her, but there is a menace as she levels her gaze at you all. To her left behind is a gentleman dressed in khaki and earth brown livery, much as the other men, though his ensemble seems a bit more prestigious. And to her left is a gentleman that the best way to describe him is if Frankenstein was in fact born instead of created. He's standing 6'6". He's about 200 pounds, which makes him look real thin, and nothing seems out of place except for the fact that as you realize his arms are folded across his chest, there are two sets of them. Behind them, waiting, paused, are roughly 5 men and women dressed in brown and camouflage tactical gear, each sporting a very ugly, devastatingly so, firearm, rifles, machine guns, actual full autos, and the message is clear. The Voivod will see you now. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for a lovely episode, and I will see you guys next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Night all.